in a very genuine way. Seriously, our Black men have gone through so much. And financially, it's almost impossible to try empower yourself, even when you try. You know, the system's against you. You know, people don't have support from the government. You have 400 years of being, oppressed. Where is this money going to come from? You know? And so we do have to give our fellow Black men grace.
So recently, Nandi Madida was on the L-Tido Podcast. There's been a part of her interview going extremely viral in South Africa. And of course, this controversial statement has sparked numerous debates. On the surface, it seems like a compassionate statement to make, because why wouldn't you extend grace to your fellow human being? But what Black women like Nandi Madida fail to realize is that Black women have been giving Black men grace for decades, centuries even. Before colonialism and Christianity, societies in Southern Africa were structured around roles, not rigid gender expression as we experience it today. These societies were patriarchal in structure, and men and women often had defined roles, but patriarchy didn't mean total female subjugation. A clear example is Nguni societies, including Zulu, Xhosa, and Swati. In these communities, women controlled agriculture and food systems, they held economic power through trade and land use, senior women exercised authority within households, and gender roles were enforced through community norms, not violent structural systems. Most importantly, women were not socially disposable. Men were expected to show up by providing, protecting, and being accountable to the community. A man that abandoned his responsibilities would face serious consequences. Masculinity was relational. Women had autonomy within their roles. They were not systematically silenced, erased, or reduced to property. When Christianity arrived on our shores with the violence of colonialism, Southern African societies were changed forever. Colonial rule imposed European Victorian gender norms that framed women as submissive and inferior. Christian moral hierarchies that restricted women's authority and sexuality, and legal systems that stripped women of land rights and economic independence. Where women once influenced communal structures, they were now positioned beneath men. Colonialism created a new masculinity that was no longer tied to communal accountability. It rewarded dominance, control, and authority without responsibility. Decades later, apartheid was enacted as the rule of law, which formalized white Christian patriarchy. Black men were violently dispossessed, criminalized, and forced to leave their families to work in the mines, leaving children fatherless. Black women became the stabilizing force in families and communities. Women worked, raised children, organized resistance, and maintained households under extreme pressure. Just think about all the roles Winnie Madikizela Mandela had to occupy while Nelson was locked up. So, when Nandi Madida says,
people don't have support from the government, you have 400 years of being, oppressed.
She fails to mention that Black women have also been oppressed for 400 years. Black men were seen as inferior, but they were still recognized as men. On the other hand, Black women were positioned as invisible. And since Black men didn't have power outside of the home became the only place where their power could be exercised. This meant violence and frustration being placed onto Black women and their children. This is also when the idea of the strong Black woman became entrenched. As a strong Black woman, you were expected to stay loyal, patient, and silent, even if the person harming you was a man who looked like you. Grace wasn't optional, it was fundamental to the survival of Black women as a group. Speaking up about issues that impacted Black women was seen as betraying the movement against apartheid. To this day, Black women in South Africa live in a country where gender-based violence is widespread and normalized. The idea that Black men uniquely deserve grace because of trauma erases the reality that Black women experience sexism, racism, economic exclusion, and violence at the same time. Black women are expected to be emotionally available, financially responsible, and endlessly resilient in the face of injustice. There's no grace period for Black women when we make mistakes, are angry, or simply exhausted and burnt out. When Black women fail, we are called bitter, angry, difficult, masculine, unlovable. Grace isn't extended to us, yet it is demanded from us. In South Africa, the majority of children grow up without present fathers. Black women shoulder childcare, emotional labor, and financial responsibility. Men are socially excused for their absence, while women are blamed for the outcome. This matters because grace without accountability enables abandonment. When men are not required to show up, women pick up the pieces, children absorb the loss, and communities normalize male irresponsibility. Grace is often code for silence. It means don't speak too loudly, don't name patterns, don't center your pain as a Black woman, and don't demand consequences. So you're asking for grace, but at whose expense?
Nandi, that sounds very nice until you actually think about it. Because here's the problem. Black women are broke too. Black women are stressed too. Black women are expected to provide, nurture, hustle, survive without speeches of grace. So when a wealthy Nandi Madida comes through and says, let's be more understanding of Black men, the question becomes, at whose expense? Because grace in real life is not free. Someone pays for that. If a man can't provide, someone else will step in. If a man is not ready, someone else will. If a man is still finding himself, someone has to carry those bills, the kids, the emotional weight, and that usually is a woman. So let's be honest. Plenty of Black men are not struggling because of apartheid or because of the economy. We are struggling because of our choices, because of our entitlement, because of our lack of accountability. But so is the culture of excusing underperformance. At what point does grace become a free pass?
Black women need to withdraw their energy and focus on themselves. Self-preservation is not cruelty. It means prioritizing your safety over sympathy for others, choosing boundaries over emotional labor, refusing to mother grown men, and opting out of narratives that ask Black women to absorb communal harm for the sake of harmony. Black women are allowed to say, I don't have the capacity to extend grace to people who materially endanger my life. So when public figures like Nandi Madida ask Black women to give Black men grace, it ignores a critical truth. Black women are being asked to extend empathy to one of our primary sources of harm. In this world, grace is a luxury and self-preservation a necessity. Asking Black women to give grace before safety, accountability, and structural change is not compassion. It shifts the emotional and physical burden onto women instead of demanding change from men.